Good afternoon. My name is Scott Redler, Chief Strategic Officer at T3Lab.com. Welcome to today's recap and look ahead. So everyone had a nice laugh. I was waiting at Fox Business, about to go on at 3:15. Then all of a sudden Donald comes on. And I'm sitting waiting. I'm standing there in the box with Donald and me and this and that. And boom, got bumped. Anyway, I'll go over a little bit more than I was going to go over my 1 and 2 sentence soundbite on Fox Business. Anyway, we started the day. Futures are up 9-10 handles, and that's where we closed. What a quinky dink! That's the exact action we've been having, where we're closing right around the VWAP. We're closing almost right where we started. A little bit more power today than normal. They couldn't sell the market down like they've been able to do on big gap ups, and the way they've been buying it also like they did on Friday on big gap downs or decent gap downs. But there is a lot of stocks doing decent, having decent moves, and we've been isolating them in the morning call, the long form, the note, and at least we have strategies to take advantage of individual stock plays. Let's just get right to it. First, just real quick before I get into that, S&P. What happened today? First of all, still hovering above, support. Had that one quick break below after this wedge broke to the downside. No downside follow through since then. Last week, a lot of inside action. Today, you would have thought we could have gapped up and done a little bit better, but it is what it is. Market's still trapped here. For the first time, we're above the 21-day. We're still below the 50-day. Whatever. Still in this choppy range with not a whole heck of a lot to do in the indices. There's a little small things to be done. I was long spiders overnight because we closed off lows, and you had to be long overnight in order to make money. Anyway, went over a lot of strategies. So the go-to list continues to do well. Okay, first of all, Netflix created a nice little spark in the high beta tech land. Okay, here was your gap up right there. Boom. Okay, if you didn't go home long it after day one of earnings, day two gave you the conviction to buy that pivot, and now look at it. Okay, it's been a nice move. And now finally a little bit of a doji. So we'll see if we can go sideways for a little while and set up again. Big gap up, held, nice follow through. We've been looking for follow through. We've been looking for a movement. Well, you could have been a buyer after hours the day of earnings, and then boom, if you didn't want to hold it and you wanted to see it prove it was going to hold and break above it, well, you had it. And now we'll see what this doji does. A break below this, maybe it comes in a little bit. Holding here could create a flag. So we talked about what was Microsoft going to do. Could do the same thing. Oh, look at that, a quinky dink. Even without the short interest. Here's your big gap up. Here's your pivot. Some of you guys bought weakness, and then boom, traded above the earnings per share high of 60.45, and you got 50 cents in Microsoft. You could have bought hundreds of thousands of shares, whatever you wanted to. Same strategy as Netflix. Now we'll see if you get a little follow through tomorrow. Okay, this huge channel had a nice pro gap. Granted, it didn't close on highs, okay, on earnings day, but it didn't matter. If you came in flat today, you had a nice little area to buy, to add, sell some, and hold some. Okay, that is your post-earnings strategy. In the gap, not as strong as you thought. Above the post-earnings high, you go with some with the stop, and you can make some money. Then you have two other things. Okay, Google woke up, been in it since last week. I am not long it overnight. I was long it on Friday. I was long it today. To me, I just sold some of the strength. Here was your first buy, which we had a nice one, and then on Friday was a nice buy the dip, and then you could have even added above this 8:30 today, and I probably should still be in some, but you know what? Nice 2-day move. Same way we had a 2-day move here, and we'll see how it goes tomorrow. Okay, still earnings are on Thursday, so I don't want to get too cute by trying to play too much of the pre-earnings run. Facebook, talking about pre-earnings run, had a really nice one. A lot of us got involved on Friday. I was long overnight, and I'm still long, looking good. Some of you guys even bought here when it crossed above 129.50 and held it. Nice inside day, and there you go. Little extended. Earnings are until actually, I think November 2nd, next week. So, but again, you're not buying it here. It's a little extended. You want to buy here, you want to buy there, and hopefully today you trimmed and you have less than you have last night, or Friday night. That's kind of like what I did, but I'm still in some. Amazon, I didn't feel like buying the stock, so I bought options. We talked about buying it in the hole, right? This was your 8:11 pivot right here. Went below it, came back above it. We bought some options for earnings in here, which I didn't add because we're not near earnings. I don't know if it's going to get above the highs pre-earnings. It would have been nice to have the stock also, but whatever. If you're positioned in the 820s, you might catch a nice middle and then already be in the money by the time it gets ready for earnings. And the pivot here is 846. So for those of you who bought the stock, great. For those of you who bought the options, that's cool too. At least you did something in the hole. And now, strong day today. We'll see if that continues. Apple's on Tuesday. I had it most of the day, closed all right. For some reason, I don't like taking the stock, into the day of earnings, at least for, just because sometimes, I don't know, things get scraped news-wise, this and that. But ultimately, this is hanging in real nice. It's pricing in a $5 move. I probably should be in some for tomorrow, but I don't take stock into earnings, and I don't have options here, so we'll see what happens tomorrow. Here is, just so you can see how, these post-earnings moves happen too. Remember this one last quarter? Gapped up. I said if we get above the post-earnings high here, it could be a good trade. We can see 108 to 112, and boom. Gap held, closed, didn't close great. Next day engulfed it, and then that's what started the move. And then here was your double bottom, and now all of a sudden hovering in here, looking like a nice bull flag, setting up for higher prices. I think ultimately Apple goes higher. I'll talk more about that tomorrow. Then the banks are kind of wishy-washy. I actually, I'm long this ACIA, the new issue land, first up day. Might have taken a little bit too much of, the bounce today, but you did see some power. Here was your nice little doji at this, 83 gap, engulfed this entire spot. So I would think that maybe, with maybe tomorrow or whatnot, it tries to see this 21-day again. Decent relative strength today, so that's something I'm in overnight. Twilio wasn't ready for that because it just had its deal. It's probably has to wash some people out around 40. So actually on the close, I bought some options on the bid going 2 weeks out because I'm thinking it's not going to be like ACA that gets below the number and stays below and grinds down. Maybe it's like a washout 1 day, 2 day thing, but we'll see. I'm not in that stock. I bought a little options going out 2 weeks, so I have 2 weeks for it to, do something different here. This was your exit. Now I think it's, it's worth trying, but again, the new issue happened, or the secondary happened on Friday, and if it breaks 40, you know what, guys are going to get stopped out. Like ACIA did at 100. If it breaks it, comes back above it, and washes it out, then 40% of the float might start to get squeezed. So for now, I'm in small calls there. This Coop, had a decent day, first day in a while. I know a lot of guys have been watching it, so for me, I bought a little bit as it cleared this spot, and now we'll see if it could get going a little bit more. Last time it did a little red dog reversal. It went up for 4 days before reversing. Here's your day one, just something to do. Maybe you get a day two. Some guys were trying this NTNX, didn't have enough juice for now, but we'll see. This is your low to trade against. That's what happens with these new issues. The funds come in, and when they're done buying, they drift. Not a lot of coverage here yet. And that's really it. I'm running out of time here. S&P gapped up, closed where it basically opened. There was some movement, though, across the board in lots of different names. Amazon was a good position from last week if you bought the stock or options. Google, we've been focusing. Finally, we had a good move above 816, 820, and then we actually had the rebuy. And then today there was even 2 trades around that 830 before selling it into 833, 834. That's where I got the last one for now. Apple, we'll see what happens tomorrow. Microsoft, some of you guys caught the post-earnings trade. Banks are hanging around. The oil's hanging around. Metals are kind of weak. At this point, we talked about it being a lower-level trade, but, don't stick around too long. And at this point, I don't know. I definitely think it's more bearish than bullish here. Okay, below the 21-day. Some of you guys bought it here. And then that engulfing day probably would have got me out because, again, it's a lower-level laggard trade that you need to have care with. Same thing with this GDX. I am, gave you a 3-day move. So if you use the 3-day move technique, day 1, day 2, day 3, you sold some, and then when you held small, and when it broke this flag, you just got stopped out. And I would continue to be very skeptical of these for now. And that's that. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Have a good night.